And our commentary writer, Tiana Lowe. Tiana, good to see you. Thanks very much. Wow, what an oil shock this administration is dealing with right on the heels of some bad policy decisions. Your reaction to Joe Biden's response to this crisis?
Good morning, Maria. It's frankly concerning that the priority right now from this White House isn't energy independence, or at the very least, trying to get away from the chokehold of OPEC+. I mean, just think fewer than 2 years ago, oil futures went negative. And mind you, that was in large part because of the COVID demand shock. But still, you know, Joe Biden let our drilling permits on federal land expire. He's currently challenging the restoration of those permits in federal court. And even still, we're importing this much oil from Russia. You know, in the year 2021, the IEA documented more barrels of Russian oil and petroleum imported into the U.S. than ever before. Russian oil still creates 7% of all of our imports, with no sign of that stopping. You know, when Kamala Harris was asked on the Today Show what the plan to change that is, there has never been a supply-side answer. And I'm sorry, but renewables and solar is not an immediate solution to that. We could talk about investing in nuclear expansion. We could talk about investing. But right now is the problem. Right now, Americans are being punished at the pump for what this administration allowed to happen in giving all of this power to Putin.
Yeah, well, look, you know that the Biden administration's priority is climate change and addressing climate change. And that has many, many elements to it. The president laid out his plan to fight high oil prices and record high inflation during the State of the Union, saying that he's going to be bolstering U.S. manufacturing, speeding up supply chains and lowering costs for health care. President Trump reacted to Biden's plan. He was with me yesterday. Listen to this.
If you want to knock inflation or at least take a big chunk out of it, what you do is lower the hell out of your oil prices, and we could do that. But it's going to take a while to start it up. I mean, the problem is with this gentleman, he really destroyed it, and it's going to take a while to do it.
A while to ramp up manufacturing and production once again, Tiana, because as you know, the first week in office, Joe Biden canceled the XL pipeline on day one and then canceled all drilling on federal land.
Yeah, and, you know, what President Trump is correct about is that oil is a huge part right now of that CPI increase. 7.5% overall CPI inflation rate from January, from Biden's inauguration until now, you know, the highest recorded rate in 40 years. And that's probably a lagging figure because the producer price index is outpacing the CPI. So we know that the worst is probably yet to come in those numbers. And yeah, and a lot of that is attributable to the fact that you have this nearly 50% increase in fuel prices. The things that Biden outlined during his State of the Union have nothing to do with what's increasing the inflation rate and what's artificially depressing our economic output. He mentioned the cost of childcare. The cost of childcare has increased with inflation. It has not outpaced inflation. The cost of prescription drugs have only increased 2.5% since the pandemic, meaning that it's slower than the overall rate of price increases. Look, it's a noble goal to care about these things, but then from the output perspective, as Biden pointed out with childcare, just get the schools reopen up and all those moms can get back to work. That's the real crisis. But really, Trump is right. It is the oil thing. And right now, there are no long-term supply-oriented solutions to this. Releasing our oil reserves, that's a short-term bandage on a longer-term structural problem that requires a domestic energy output as a long-term solution.
Well, Dagan McDowell, I don't think that had a peep of an impact whatsoever, the movement of oil out of the strategic reserve. Dagan, how do you see it?
The day that they announced the release of this oil, it was 30 million barrels from the U.S. Strategic Reserve, which is a day and a half of supply. 60 million was the total release. That is less than 1 day's global demand. And as Joe Biden was speaking, in the State of the Union address, oil futures were spiking. And it just seems he could have stood up there and said to the American people, this is a war that will be fought with the price of oil and with economics. And he could have said to Americans that we need to tolerate these higher prices in order to, in the short run, starve Vladimir Putin. That he needed to say, we need to reduce demand, which might mean higher prices, but also pump more oil. That is America first. That is made in America. But he didn't say anything of the sort. Instead, he still talked about this vision for America that follows Germany, which boggles the mind because Germany is now in the vice grip of Russia because it relies on Russia for imports of natural gas. I don't understand where they're coming from, why they're still kowtowing to the Green movement when John Kerry himself said we could reduce our emissions to zero here in the United States and it wouldn't have any impact on climate change.
Don't even get me started about John Kerry in the last 2 weeks. He also said he hopes Russia and China do not lose focus on climate change in the middle of the Ukraine war. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Tiana, thanks very much for weighing in here.